Hello people of YouTube, my name is Brad. This is my channel Animate Orange, and this week in 3D metal model news. Really nothing new as far as new models coming this week. I've not found anything out there on any of the usual sites about upcoming models, so we're still waiting for some of the things that have been announced recently, including the Game of Thrones models. And speaking of the Game of Thrones models, I had spoke with CodeWookie of Instagram very recently, and he had sent me pictures that he had found from figures.com, where they had been at the New York Toy Fair, and I'd mentioned other pictures that had been taken at the New York Toy Fair from Fascinations, where they were doing some unveiling of the Game of Thrones models, and it looks like figures.com had taken some pictures as well. And one of those pictures, it shows the packaging. Now these are all supposed to be ICONX models, and so far all the ICONX models usually come in a bigger, thicker packaging, not just the usual sleeve packaging that the Metal Earth models come in. However, the packaging that they're showing in the New York Toy Fair pictures look like just slightly larger sleeve packets, very similar to the Metal Earth ones, thinner, just a little bit larger, but very similar to the Metal Earth models. So I don't know what this means, if they're just changing the packaging for the ICONX models. Companies have to update what's going on, and things sometimes change, or if they're just making a different sort of packaging for the Game of Thrones models. I don't know. It's not particularly interesting, but it's something to talk about as we wait. It does make me wonder, though, are they still going to include the tweezers that they usually include with most ICONX models, or have they done away with the tweezers? And what other changes might there be inside of those packagings? Now, back in the February 22nd weekly news video, I had mentioned how someone had created a survey for Metal Earth and 3D metal model builders, and I encouraged anyone who was interested to take that survey because, well, they're just curious, who is it that's building these metal models? Well, that individual has since released the results of that survey, and as usual, I'll put a link in the description down below to the survey results. And he did kind of break quite a few things down in that survey, which I found rather interesting, and I can't remember every answer or everything that I answered. Some of them are obvious, some of them maybe not so much, but there were several things about the survey that a little bit surprising to me. One of the things that surprised me was the offset from male to female builders. There were, in the survey, 13.4% were female, where 85.8% were male. I think the rest just chose not to respond. I would have expected it to be a lot more equal. I mean, not completely equal, but I thought it would be closer than that. I'm a little bit surprised, a little bit sad, I guess. I do know a lot of people that I've talked with in the hobby are female, so for me it was a bit of a surprise, though I have heard other people say that it is more offset, kind of like what the survey has reflected. Another one of the categories was, how would you categorize your general interest? And there's STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, mostly related to the arts and humanities, an equal mix of both, or neither of those. And the individual who conducted the survey made the note they would have thought that an equal mix would be the overwhelming winner. However, 42.9% said mostly related to STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and equal mix of both was a close second at 38.1%. I'm not that personally surprised because artistic is usually free-flowing, and these models are pre-built or pre-designed structures that you follow instructions to put together. So it does make sense to me that it'd be a little more STEM and science and technology and assembly than it would be with an artistic flair. The artistic flair comes in if you customize or alter the model, which some people do, but then a lot of the people, to get started with it, you're following directions and you're putting something together. So it's a little more structured and scientific, and to me it makes more sense that the interests of STEM would be more of a priority than a mix of the both. But interesting results. How would you describe your involvement in the hobby? The overwhelming majority said casual, not a huge part of my life. That was 71.1%. That was kind of interesting. Now, favorite category caught me a little bit by surprise. I expected Star Wars would be a very large chunk of favorite category, and I believe the author of this particular survey felt the same way. Star Wars was only 11.8%. Star Wars seems to be a very big, very high-selling series of models, at least for Fascinations, and it's copycatted a lot, so I figured as much. But it looks like 26%, the largest chunk, said it doesn't matter what the model is, and that's cool. The next biggest, 18.9, is architecture. The rest of them are, varying in size, but fairly close. It's pretty well split up in that category. Have you ever completely botched or abandoned a build? 56.7% said no, 43.3% said yes. I have. I have completely abandoned a build, although that may not remain completely true forever. There is at least one build that I can think of that I have ruined the very beginning pieces, and I don't have a replacement parts, and I haven't gotten replacement parts. Someday I would like to think that I will get another model, because it is a Peace Cool model. It was going to be my second Peace Cool model, and it didn't start off well. And Peace Cool models in the US, it's hard to get spare parts, if not impossible. You pretty much just have to order another model, and that's where I'm at. It got put to the side, I got working on other models, and it remains to the side. One of these days, though, it will not be an abandoned model. Have you ever physically harmed yourself on a model? 54.3% no, 45.7% yes. I have. It's very rare. I have bled a few times, but after 200 some models, I think I've bled 3 times. It's not that often, but it can happen. Have you ever used any kind of glue / adhesive on a model? 80.8% said yes. They admitted to it, and I have. I don't like to. I try to avoid it, but there are circumstances where it's not that easy to get a spare part, or you're so far into the model that it would be such a hassle to start over with spare parts or replacement parts that you just rather throw a piece of glue on there or a piece of tape or putty or whatever, fix it and carry on. And in another sense, you've added a bit of your own artistic flair, stepping outside the idea of STEM and into the artistic side of things, and completed the model anyway. You've given it your own personal touch. One that I found interesting was background sound, and 39.4% said that they put on movies and television as a background sound. And I get that. It's not my personal choice. I like music or audiobooks. I do sometimes listen to books on tapes or audiobooks while I'm working on my models, because I don't want to be visually distracted. Audio distractions, fine, great, helpful even, but not visually distracted. In some of the other categories were audiobooks and books on tape, which I think I may have filled in. Football or F1 on TV, gaming videos, often billed with friends, kids screaming, old radio programs, that's kind of cool. Old time radio dramas, also pretty cool, hadn't thought of that. Twitch, and last but not least, life with a little smiley face. Reasons to build. I kind of want to talk about this one a little bit, and the overwhelming majority, or the not overwhelming, but the majority is 30.2% because it's fun. There's also, I enjoy collecting, it aids my mental health, it's addicting, it's an excuse to get some me time, I enjoy sharing, feeling part of the community, or other. And other includes feeling of accomplishment, fun and can be a challenge. I also enjoy making videos. That was probably my response. I have pancreatitis, and it helps keep me sharp, and a sense of worth due to being out of work and being in the hospital a lot. Can assemble in the hospital also. Very cool. I mean, not the pancreatitis part, but you can assemble them in the hospital too. I've thought about doing that because I've spent some time in the hospital. Just a pastime and a challenge. Love of architecture. Needed a hobby to get away from the computer once in a while. Plus they look cool, make great gifts. No gluing or paint to stink up the room. Relaxing. I kind of want to talk a little bit about that because one of the categories was it aids in my mental health, and in the other there were things like, I have an illness of some sort and it helps me feel productive. I completely understand that, and that's a lot of how this started for me. If you don't know by this point, I suffered from heart failure. I've had a heart transplant. I've been in and out of the hospital quite a bit. I've had a lot of health problems, a lot of things I couldn't do. And I've always kept some sort of hobby, some sort of hands-on hobby to keep me feeling like I can do something. And I've known a lot of people who have had illnesses and disabilities of their own, and it is very important to feel like you can do something. And these models, and I've seen people in the Metal Earth community who also suffer from one illness or another, and these models help keep a person busy. They can help hone skills, they can help keep you active, they can keep you feeling productive and feeling like you're doing something. It's a very important thing for people who have mental health issues, who have physical health issues. It is very important to feel some sort of positive thing in your life, because it is very depressing to have to deal with medical issues. I know from firsthand experience, and I know how much of a huge impact it can be to have that tiny little sense of accomplishment every day when everything else in the world feels like it's going wrong. So in many ways, I feel like a hobby like building metal earth models can be an aid, a relaxation, an assistance to people with problems. Not a cure, but a treatment, and it can really help. And I know a lot of people who would probably strongly agree with me on that. Another interesting one, and the survey results go on and on and on. They're broke down in different ways, and if you want to find out more, check out the link down below. I'm just going to touch on one more thing, mode of introduction, and there was a survey question on that, and most people, 42%, said in-store display. Some people said a GIF, some people said social media, blog post, word of mouth, and it turns out word of mouth is not very powerful. At least for this particular instance, word of mouth did not have that great of effect. For me, it was online browsing. Actually, for me, that first introduced me to Metal Earth models was a Think Geek, and I saw some Star Wars models on there, but the price was not right. And it wasn't until I saw them pop up in a local craft store on sale that I gave it a shot, and thus this channel was born. I started with the Millennium Falcon, went on to Darth Vader's TIE Fighter, and recorded it and started making videos, and have enjoyed it ever since. But I can continue to break down this survey results. There's a lot of information in there. I touched on a few of the things I kind of wanted to talk about. I'm going to move on. If you want to find out more, look in the description down below for the links. There's a lot more to this, and there's a comment or post on the Metal Earth subreddit that you could also chit-chat on there if you would like. And one of the things I haven't mentioned in the last few videos is Metal Earth's newsletter. They send one out every month, and they've just released their March monthly newsletter. And I haven't talked about the last couple because they tended to come out right after my video, and there's usually some sort of contest or giveaway in there. The last couple ones, the giveaway was the first few people to respond will get entered into this sort of thing. And to wait a whole week before I tell anybody about it just didn't make a lot of sense. But this one just came out. They just released their March one, and in the title of it shows some of the construction vehicles coming up, but not a lot of news and announcements as far as new models. However, they do have the contest, Show Us Your Metal Earth Spirit and Receive the Gift of Models. Tell us a story by using your favorite Metal Earth builds. To participate, 2 participants to send marketing@fascinations.com their story, short story, and a very creative photo of their builds depicting a scene from their short story will win a mystery bundle of new and top-selling models. Rules: creativity, creativity, creativity. Did we say creativity? Deadline April 5th, 2019. When submitting your entry, please include your full name and mailing address. Winners will have their photo and short story featured in the April newsletter. All prizes must be mailed to an address in the United States. So if you don't already subscribe to the newsletter, go to the metalearth.com website, and I believe down at the bottom there's still a thing where you can subscribe to the newsletter. Just put in your email address, or you can just check out the link in the descriptions down below. There's a link to it. You can see the newsletter for yourself and send in your creative information for a chance to win models. Fascinations is wonderful about how they give out models to creative people and people who enter their contests. One other bit of information, I was poking around on Big Bad Toy Store's website, and I noticed that 3 of the 4 Gundam models are on sale right now. I believe it's 40% off. The Zegok, the Zaku-2, and the Barbados models are marked down. I don't know if that's temporary, if the other one's going to join in, if they're clearing them out, but they're cheaper right now, and those are ICONX models, so a nice amount of savings. If you've been wanting to get one of those, jump to their website and grab it now while supplies last, while sale lasts. And to wrap things up, I'm going to do my question of the week. I forgot to do this last week, and I do apologize. Albert Fish had posted a little over a week ago, "Hey man, I have a question maybe for next week. If you could request a custom model to Metal Earth, what would it be and why? Also, do you think tree models could work? For example, a tree with a small tree house inside." Well, I'm going to start with the second half of that question first. Do I think a tree model could work? It could work if designed the right way. It would probably be a very delicate model and very tedious, but I'm sure the designers at Fascinations and Metal Earth could figure something out to make it work. Is that a possibility? Absolutely. Would I want to build it? Maybe, maybe not. To answer the first half to that question, well, really, you've asked a loaded question. I'm terrible about picking favorites or picking one thing, but I will say there have been a number of models, maybe not, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by custom models, but there are a number of models I would like to request and like to see from Metal Earth. One that I've said time and time again, I'd love to see a Y-Wing. We've got the X-Wing fighters, we've got the TIE fighters, we've got some of the other bombers and unusual fighters and aircraft and planes in the different movies. We never got a Y-Wing or B-Wing or any of the other interesting wings or Jedi fighters, but I'd love to see a Y-Wing. It might be a pain in the butt to build, especially that back end with those thin parts, but I'd love to see a Y-Wing. Other models, I'm a big sci-fi and ship geek. I'd love to see a Serenity from Firefly. If you're not familiar with Serenity or Firefly, check it out. Wonderful short run sci-fi show, and that ship is just amazing looking, and there's not a lot of models of that particular ship. I'd love to see a Serenity ship. That would be amazing. Metal Earth and MU have done quite an excellent job with Transformers models, but what about Voltron? I'd love to see some Voltron models. I think that would be amazing. I don't know how you'd pull off making all the different individual cars or cats that would form together into one big giant Voltron, but wouldn't that be cool? And continuing on, Battlestar Galactica, there's a whole series of possible models you could tap there, new and old series, the Galactica, the Pegasus, the Cylon ships, the fighters, the Vipers, the other odd and end ships. There's a whole universe of ships you could tap into there. I love ships, but that's just me. I'll stretch out even further. The Cygnus from Disney's Black Hole, that's an interesting ship. Probably also be a nightmare to build and very delicate, but in a more reasonable sense. Vincent, Bob, or Maximilian, since we occasionally get robots from Star Wars, maybe some Disney's Black Hole. If you don't know who Vincent, Bob, and Maximilian is, there's another Google search for you. Disney's Black Hole. It's an old movie. It's a big creepy movie, but it's got some interesting sci-fi characters in it, I think, as far as, neat little robots and ships goes. I'll leave it at that. As always, thank you to my Patreon supporters for your support and helping make build videos, the news videos, and the review videos possible. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, keep on keeping on. I'll see you next week.